And a pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talk Show Presents. I am Keith Williams, your host. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast today. So for those of you who do not know what OBS Talk Show Presents is all about, we particularly have guests on the show that are an expert on a topic that has been talked about on the news. It's very popular in the news. And some of the guests, they are actually newsmakers themselves, that come on. Or they may have a topic that has been talked about or reported on the news. We, from time to time, do have people that come on that are involved in current events, or they know something about our current events. So the guest that we have today is of no exception. Cybersecurity has definitely been in the news in recent months, particularly in the last 5 years or so. The cybersecurity has been in the news. So with that being said, we have Ken Fanger. Hope I pronounced that correctly. He is the president of the cybersecurity company On Technology Partners, a national speaker and author of the newly released book, Relax, A Guide to True Cybersecurity. He is on a mission to help people realize that cybersecurity doesn't have to be scary and that there are simple steps anyone can take right now to be more cyber secure. Ken takes fun and laid back approach to cybersecurity, making the material relevant and reputable. This helps people feel more comfortable and empowered in their own cybersecurity efforts. Sometimes that's even more important in our digital age. Ken has over 30 years of experience specialized in cybersecurity and information technology systems management and design and project management. Although his current focus is on the manufacturing sector, he has worked in the pharmaceutical, legal, medical, nonprofit, and government field. He has businesses of all sizes, from mom and pop shops to Fortune 500 companies. Be more cyber secure. Ken, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
If there's anything else you would like to add to this, introduction?
Well, I've been lucky enough to be selected to help protect the power grid. I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And we're actually putting out a free service for anyone that wants to start trying to put in active shooter protection. So we're offering to government free active shooter training. So we are about helping to protect all of us from all of the risks that are out there.
I'm quite sure you've been following the news about cybersecurity and security breaches in some of the major companies. What is your commentary and thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny you ask about that, because I was just in Washington and there was a cybersecurity expert presenting, and he was talking about how he was able to rob a bank with a phone call. And he shows that a hacker with enough determination can get into some of the most secure places on earth. And so it was an interesting story. He would go every day to the back door of this bank and he would knock on the door. And finally, one day, one of the receptionists opened the door. He told him he had to go in there and work on a latency problem and he needed to get in, and he forgot his badge. The person, feeling bad for him, let him in. He was able to get into the data center. And one of the things he said that kind of really related to the book was, he said, we punish people for doing the right thing. This person was trying to be helpful. This person was trying to be nice. And we talk about how bad it is to do that, but that's human nature, to be good people. And the hackers know this and they take advantage of it. And then to make things kind of worse, we punish those people again. So how many times have we heard about the Nigerian prince scam and think, how foolish could anybody be to send money to these people? But the truth is, it feels good to have a chance to make good money. And so we get trapped into that just being human. And one of the big things about the book Relax is to try and help us to realize we have to stop punishing everybody and punishing ourselves for trying to be good people and do good things.
I'm just baffled at the fact that you said that an hacker was able to rob a bank using a mobile phone. I mean, did I hear that correctly?
Yep, he's an ethical hacker. It's his job to do this, but he has great stories about how he's able to, with a single phone call, get information that he shouldn't be able to get, with a single knock, get into buildings that he shouldn't get into. And you can see how people can be manipulated, looking for those good traits, using it to do bad things.
Also too, there's a thing going on the social media, particularly Facebook and Instagram. Um, there's a major problem with that as well, because you have people on there who, that's all they do day in and day out, every day and night. They find a way to trap hundreds of desperate people into giving up their private information. Of, for example, you may have some people that may offer a job, or they say that, I can perform a service for you, or uh you was chosen to receive a grant,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
or they even, would get you to add you to your friends list.
yes. And it's funny because I had a person Facebook friend me. Um, I knew it was a scam from the beginning, but they were very committed to it. It was an attractive woman, supposedly from Chicago, wanted to talk to me out of the blue, become my friend. She said, I just liked how you looked. So I friended her and I watched and waited. I knew there was going to be an ask for money at some point in this journey. And it took her about a month. She told me all the nice things. I was a handsome guy. I'm this, I'm that. And she kept playing up on my ego. And then she told me about her daughter that was in Atlanta. She's in Chicago. And how she needed money. She needed $1,000 for an operation. Now, my wife, who actually owns On Technology Partners with me, also was a nurse for the Cleveland Clinic before. So I started to ask this person, oh, what is the medical condition? And I started to press because I knew it wasn't true. But I saw how this can really trap people. Again, she made this story about how her daughter had these terrible medical conditions, all this stuff to get you to feel emotionally bound to her. And as she moved you forward, her goal was to get you to want to give her money, or they want to get your information. I'll tell you, I was just doing a presentation, and at the end of it, a person came up to me and told me how their Instagram got hacked. They were a college student. They had maybe inappropriate pictures, but it was all in private. It was all what they thought was safe and secure. Well, these hackers have put it out on the internet, and it's been a terrible dilemma for her. She had a future. She knows this is going to affect how she goes. It is really, when we talk about cybersecurity, we need to remember that it's not just the financial cost, but it can cost to our reputation, to our future. This young lady is now potentially facing something that could cost her her job in the future if it comes back out to haunt her. And she's not doing anything different. Now, I was kind of a rambunctious kid when I was in college. I'm really glad they didn't have cameras on phones when I was young, or I'd be in trouble probably today. It's a shame that we have these lifelong punishments for people being people. And that story is so tragic, but that's what's happening. They're looking to get you to friend you, either to get you to give money, to give personal information, or to hack you for things that are in your private sections. And you need, unfortunately, to think about this, and especially younger people who are just enjoying life may not want that enjoyment to become part of everybody's day. And so that's why cybersecurity is important.
But I mean, social media platforms like Facebook, they allow this type of stuff to, to be on their platform and their app. Why? I mean, that's the part that I don't understand. If a company like, Facebook or Meta, or whatever they call themselves, wants to protect people's privacy, why are they allowing this stuff to even enter on that platform to begin with? I don't understand that part. So somebody's gonna have to make that make sense to me.
And I don't, unfortunately, have an answer for you on that. Facebook is a company. I always tell people, remember, Facebook is giving you free because you're the product. And when you're the product, their job is to make the most money they can off of what you do.
So basically, they are profiting off these scammers and crooks taking advantage of people. Is that what you're telling me?
It does make money, yes. I mean, I'm not.
I mean, that's not good. That's not good, because that means social media platforms like Facebook is just as bad as the people that they're trying to, the scammers, they're trying to scam people. Would you agree with that?
I don't know if I'd go as far as to say they're as bad as, but they're like any corporate entity. They're looking out for their bottom line first. And so it's a buyer beware market. You have to be very careful what you do, because if you give them something that will make them make money, people will rationalize the right to make money. If you ever watch that documentary, The Most Hated Man on the Internet, he justified everything he did under they shouldn't have been there. If they didn't want to be exposed, they shouldn't have been there. I think that's a terrible thing to say, especially because a lot of young people don't know the cost of what they're doing until it's too late. I would like to see more responsibility, but it is hard. I worked in the oil industry, and it's about making money. And sometimes making money can over exceed the value of everything else. And I think we forget that. And it's not like the people that I worked with at the oil industry were bad people. They just didn't necessarily connect what was happening bad to what they were doing. And they had a vested interest in not connecting those two things. So I don't think anybody at Meta is innately bad. I think they want to do good things, but they want to make more money for their stockholders. They want to continue to increase profits. And to do that, you sometimes push limits that maybe you shouldn't push. So I don't know if I'm answering it kind of how you're seeing it, but I do agree there has to be a concern, but that's where we have to ourselves take responsibility on how those actions go. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you put stuff there, you need to take a few minutes and think, is that the thing I want for the rest of my life? If you make a rant about somebody, if you show something you didn't mean to show, it becomes a permanent part of the world. And it can come, I've had stories of people that had jobs for 20 years that something they did in college came out and they got fired. And they were not the person they were in college. It was not a fair thing to do to them. But that's the digital age we live in. And, yes, it would be nice if Meta took a more active role in protecting data. But we can't count on other people to protect us. We have to take the steps to protect ourselves. And as a parent, I need to protect my children because they may not know what the best choice is. Like I said,
So in other words, this should be a two-way street.
This should be a two-way street. We have to take responsibility, and we have to ask our corporations to take responsibility.
Okay, yeah, okay. I can agree with that. That is definitely need to be a two-way street. So with all of the data breaches that's been going on in the last 5 years, is, we heard like major corporations, announcing that there's been a lot of, data breaches. But they want to continue to do business with that customer. or whatever product and service, you know, that they have. So for a business, how we're talking about gaining customer trust. And when we're talking about gaining customer trust, you know, one of the things that we have to have a discussion is about is that, you know, if I'm having this business relationship or business consumer relationship with that particular company, you know, I need to know that whatever information that I give you is going to be protected.
That is true. And so I tell a story. People are going to get breached. I told you about how that hacker was able to rob a bank with a phone call, how he was able to get into secure locations. Things do happen. I tell a story when I do my presentations where my wife, right before we implemented multi-factor authentication, she ended up making a mistake and having her email hacked. And one of the things that I tell to everybody was, we followed our protocol, including telling every one of our clients that we were hacked. And I remember at the time, a lot of people are like, how can you admit you're hacked if you're a cybersecurity company? And I told them, how could we not and still be a cybersecurity company? And so that's one of the things. Things do happen. Bad things are going to happen. Breaches are going to happen. They happen at big companies. They happen at little companies. We have to be able to take responsibility, but we also have to feel comfortable that we're not going to be destroyed because we tell people that something bad happened. We were able to contain the breach. We stopped it very quickly. We remediated everything that happened and no customer lost information, but breaches do happen. And so big companies, you see it all the time. And one of the things, and that's where Relax, a guide to true cybersecurity comes in for us, is as a small business, you can feel overwhelmed. And one of the things that I've seen out there in the market as I do these presentations and do these conversations with people is it's too much. You know, I get my email hacked, I get my Facebook hacked, I get my LinkedIn hacked. Everywhere is attacking me. You become so numb to being able to do anything, you kind of get into one of two boats. You either get, oh, I'm too small, they're not going to care about me, and then you don't do anything. Or you get, I need to do everything, and you become paralyzed because you're so afraid. And so I try to remind people, yes, bad things are going to happen. If companies have your data, more than likely at some point, somebody else is going to get your data. So think about what you're putting, where you're putting it. But at the same time, yes, corporate America needs to take security seriously. And we need to not use it as just, oh, well, we lost that data attitude. So it's, again, that two-way street, like you said. We have to start asking more from our larger companies. We have to, if you have my bank information, you need to be taking it serious. And I did a wonderful podcast with Middlefield Bank out of Ohio, where we talked about mail or wire fraud and these banking things that happen and all the steps banks try to do. And I'll tell you, it was a terrible story. I was working with a nonprofit and they were working with a payroll company, and the payroll company didn't use two-factor authentication. And they were able to hack into the payroll company and move where the payroll was paid to. This cost that nonprofit almost $25,000, a full payroll for a month, and it was gone. And the payroll company said, too bad, it's not my fault. It was a disaster, and it cost real people real effects. They had to come up with that money, so they couldn't do programming. They couldn't help children. And it's those stories that we really need to take seriously. And we need to think, how can we help protect better? And you're right, we need the big companies to be helping to do that. They can't just say, it's your problem, you shouldn't do that. They got to be part of the journey with us. But we can't expect them to be the only ones that take those steps. Each of us every day have to ask, what's important to us? How do we keep safe every day? I tell people, nobody cares about cybersecurity. We care about safety. We care about not getting shot. We care about not getting hit by cars. We also care about not losing important information. I talk to people about HIPAA, and I want people to think about this. Imagine if you found out you got it through something other than inappropriate lifestyle, but you get AIDS. If people find out you have AIDS, that could cause you to lose your job. That could cause your friends not to want to be around you. And it's not your fault because you got a disease. But if that information becomes available, it can ruin your life. And I say this because I know of a story where that really happened. Somebody ended up getting AIDS. They ended up having blood that was tainted. But then their work found out they had AIDS, and they panicked and released the person. And it went into a lawsuit. It took years. Yes, there's financial reformation at the end of that, but your life is still ruined by that information getting out there. And it's these stories, this damage. That woman that I told you came up to me, she was afraid to come forward. She was embarrassed. How could she let somebody in? And that's one thing people don't realize is when you get these cyber hacks, it feels like a real violation. I've had real friends that had their house broken into, and they have the same tears in their eyes as the people that have these cyber attacks. They come in, they take your information, they take your money, and they leave you feeling exposed and vulnerable. And we want to make sure that people are ready to deal with that so they aren't exposed as much. And we do need to have everybody. We need our government to be part of the journey. We need to have better laws to protect privacy. We need to have better information for people to be safe and secure. And those are the things that, again, I'm trying to get. I'm trying to make it so it's not always a panic, but a sense of value in we should value what we protect. We should value what our children are doing and make sure we're aware of it because the hackers keep evolving.
Walk me through some of the scenarios in which people will, for example, look to you, for example, to say, that I need a cybersecurity expert.
So a lot of times people don't realize it until they stop and think. Again, that journey between you want safety. It's not cybersecurity, it's safety. So I was just talking with a person, he owns an accounting firm, and he's like, well, I really don't have to worry about cybersecurity. And then I started to talk to him. I said, you have how many customers? He's like, I've got 1,000 customers. I said, all of those customers, you're dealing with their bank accounts because you're in their accounting. You deal with their employees because you know all of that information. If I were to get in there and hack that, I could use all of that information to attack your 1,000 customers. He realized exactly how exposed he could be and how exposed he could make his customers. And he then started to look at it differently. So a lot of companies, especially smaller, you're talking sub $50 million companies, don't think they have a cybersecurity need because they're too small. Nobody wants to go after me. I don't have anything of value. The sad truth is you have a lot of things of value. You have company lists of your clients. They pay you bills. We had a company and they got an email, wire fraud email, where it asked for $125,000 payment. Now they do a lot of $125,000 payments, so they think anything of it. They made this payment and it was to a hacker, it was to a fraudulent account. That money was gone before that person could do anything about it. And so we need to think seriously about how we look at how things are done. I will tell you, we ended up getting about a decade and a half when we got into really dealing with cybersecurity. We had a hacker that took us for about $40,000. And the sad part is we tried to confirm their address. We thought we were doing everything right at that time. We had a protocol. Ended up, we found out that our credit card transaction company never checked addresses. They just, if we put a credit card number in, they just approved it. So we asked for what we thought were all the right information. We were wrong. We reached out to the FBI, and at that time, the FBI's answer was, if it's not $100,000, they don't investigate it. And so it's a terrible thing because you feel left out in the cold. And that's one of the reasons we started doing cybersecurity was because people were left out. There wasn't, fortunately, the FBI has moved and introduced iccc.com, which is a great website to report. They're taking those smaller accounts more seriously. Let me tell you, everybody that's listening, if you do get ransomware, contact the FBI because they have a lot of the ransomware release keys. So those are important steps to take, but people don't know this. And you can't expect everybody to know everything about cybersecurity. So when a person realizes that it's important, that's when they usually engage us. We're not the cheapest solution. We try to be price conscious for small business, but you have to take cybersecurity seriously. In fact, we had a customer come and says, I don't really care about cybersecurity. We just want our computers taken care of. We sent them to a very good MSP, managed service provider, that could take care of just taking care of computers. If you care about keeping your information safe is when you talk to us. And so that's an important part of this journey, is seeing the value of the information you hold, understanding that you are the gatekeeper to all of your clients, all of your customers. And that information, if it gets out, could be used against them. So you want to take it seriously before. Usually people call us after they've been hacked, after they have ransomware, after they've been wire frauded. It's harder to fix it after the fact than before the fact.
What are some of the services that your company offers?
So one of the primary things we're doing is we offer this, what's called a cyber risk review. We sit down and we take you through a series of questions to help you see how important cybersecurity is to your company. Do you have compliance? Doctors' offices have HIPAA. I've actually had doctors say, I don't care about HIPAA, I'm too small. You don't want to find out the hard way that you're not too small, type of conversation. So we do PCI, which is how you take credit cards. We do the new Department of Defense, CMMC. That's a big one. A lot of our manufacturing base does work for the federal government, and they're not secure. And so they expose unintentionally a giant risk out to the world, because right now, Russia and China and Iran have a vested interest in getting in and disrupting American defense. And especially with what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, they want to stop all production. They want to hurt us any way they can. And the best way to hurt somebody is to go for the weakest link.
I do want to point out to the listeners and viewers, in terms of HIPAA, that if you get caught, it's like $50,000 per violation.
Yep.
50 G's. Okay.
And
just want to throw that out there.
And it's actually worse than that, because it's 50 G per record. So if they get in and they take your 100 clients, that's 50 G times 100. And the government has made a point to say their goal is to start punishing people that aren't following it. So if you're not doing HIPAA and you're a doctor, please start. We have a great program that actually, it's a compliance management system that we can put in that helps keep you in compliance. So if it's HIPAA, PCI, CMMC, there's a whole slew of different types of compliances. We're rolling that out. We just introduced that this year, and it's available to help people stay in compliance, because it's hard, especially if you're a small doctor's office. If you're like the Cleveland Clinic or the Mayo, you have an entire team that just does compliance. I have good friends on the Cleveland Clinic's compliance team. They do amazing. But if you're a 5-doctor office, you may not have that same level of ability to commit that the clinic has. And so you need companies like mine, or there's other very good security companies, to make sure you're staying compliant. But those are the people that will reach out to us. They'll give us a call. They'll say, we need help, usually after the breach. So we're hoping this message gets out there. It's like a good friend of mine who is a lawyer. He says, unfortunately, most people call the lawyer after they have the crime or after they have the problem with the contract. You want to talk to your lawyer before. You want to make sure you're doing the right things before you get into trouble. Same thing with cybersecurity. You want to take steps. Great story. We have a financial institution that somebody tried to hack. We had a series of protections. We offer this secure desktop solution that protects desktops. They were able to get in. They had 15 minutes. They couldn't do anything on her workstation because it was secure. And then, of course, we saw it, we remediated it, we kicked them out. That's the type of stuff that we can offer, because we can help make sure that your workstations are safe. We help explain in my book, Relax, A Guide to True Cybersecurity. We talk about all the acronyms. What is a VPN, virtual private network? What is two-factor authentication? Why do you want it? I told you the story about my wife who we got hacked right before we implemented two-factor authentication. If we would have had that on, she would not have gotten hacked. And for your readers or listeners, one of the important things to think of is this is what two-factor authentication is. Most of you have bank accounts. Those bank accounts, when you log in on the web, you've got to go find your phone because it sent you a second notice that you have to type in. That is at two factors, meaning two things have to happen. You have to have a password and you have to have your phone or other device that tells you a code that you use to get in. That means it's harder for the hackers because there's two steps. I have that on all of my social media. And I did have once where somebody had gotten through my password, but they didn't get through my second factor authentication. I shut down the account, I made changes, I changed my password. So that's really important. And one other thing I want to share with your listeners is get a password management. We use LastPass. We love LastPass. Yes, it could get breached, but it's still better. When I used to work for a pharmaceutical company, we required every 90 days you had to change your password to another complex password. Human beings can't maintain complex passwords. And so what I would do every month, I'd have to go around and have to rip off all of the tags from all the computers because everybody would write down their password. So you need a password management to be able to keep all of those passwords that you use. So use two-factor authentication. I told you that one nonprofit was using a payroll company that didn't have multi-factor authentication. Make sure if you're working with a payroll company, they have two-factor authentication. Every customer you work with should have that because you want that extra layer of protection. You want to make sure that there's an extra step. Every step they have to do keeps you a little safer. Yes, it's annoying. I tell everyone it's really a pain. We've all had this. You go into your bank account and your phone's downstairs. So you're going to go all the way downstairs, get your phone, come all the way back upstairs and put it in. That is an inconvenience, and security comes with inconvenience, but it's a lot less inconvenient than having your bank account cleared out. And I have tragic stories of where the bank account got cleared out.
So do you like put together a security plan for a business or a nonprofit?
Yes. So we can
So
do,
is it tailored to, so is it like a one size fits all, or is it different per client?
it is focused around each individual client. It depends on if you have compliance requirements or you're just looking. So one of the questions we ask is, what is the level of security you're looking for? And then we build a report based on specifically what you want and how safe you want to be, because everybody has the right to choose how safe they're going to be. We've done about 100 of these cyber risk reviews, and we've had everything from I don't care about security at all to I want to be so locked down that nobody can get in. And so then we build a report on the steps you want to take to help you get to the level you expect to be. If you're a doctor, we work with you on your HIPAA positioning. If you're a manufacturer with the Department of Defense, we work with you on how to get CMMC compliant. If you're just looking to be a little bit better, we just did one for a real estate agent, and he has about 27 agents underneath him. He just wanted to be a little more safe to make sure that people can't find out what bank accounts he has and the information. We build the security based on the level that you're looking for, because it's important to be considering the people in the journey. And that's one of the things I think we forget. We're not going to replace it all with technology. It still has to be people. You have to get people engaged. It's still true. 90% of breaches happen because of email. Even with all the new security on email, they still find ways to get you to do things. And so it requires training people, working with people, making people feel comfortable. In my book, I talk about how to respond, and I have 3 steps. The first is to relax. I call it the count to 10. If you have a crisis, any crisis, that's the first thing people will tell you to do if they're crisis managers. You got to collect yourself, because if you're reacting in that fight or flight mode, the hackers are looking for you to do that. They're looking for you to act quickly and not think, just react. So it's relax, evaluate, and then act. And I told you about that financial person. That's what she did. She did have the breach happen. She saw it happen. She stopped, she took a breath, and then she contacted us. And then we worked with her at that point to make sure that nothing bad came out of it. And that's one thing, whether you're working with On Technology Partners, which of course I want everybody to work with On Technology Partners, but or any other company, teach your team to be relaxed, to be ready to address it rationally, because the emotions will overwhelm you at the moment that it happens. You need to step back for a second and breathe.
Uh, so what about like if you're a small business or a small nonprofit, or you have a website that you want to secure, or you have you want to keep your web hosting secure or virtual private server secure, which is what I have. I have a virtual private server, so I have multiple websites, on it. Does your company specialize in handling that as well?
Now, we are not experts in website security. We work with companies that do that type of work, but we can help you review if it's secure, and some of the steps. And then we have teams. We are a 10-person company, so we can only do so much. I'm the first to admit we try to be good in our areas of expertise, and we bring in experts to do the rest of the stuff. So when you start talking about website design and hardening websites, which is what you're talking about when you're securing it, you definitely want to do that. You want to make sure that you have proper encryption, which is where you make it so people can't just read the information that's being transmitted. You want to make sure that your website is up to date. One of the big things that happen for a lot of people that use like WordPress, they don't do the patches. And so these vulnerabilities, meaning that there are ways for people to sneak in behind it. That's where patching comes in. That's really important. And so if you don't patch to keep yourself up to date, those openings are still available. There was a school in Ohio that hadn't patched in 2 years, and they got a ransomware attack that had actually been fixed by a patch that was released a year earlier. It wiped out the school for 3 weeks. They couldn't make payroll. They couldn't have any students. They couldn't do any work. And it was as easy as keeping things patched. So if you have a website, if you do it yourself, you need to make sure you're patching. If you're using a web company, check that they are patching on a regular basis. At least once a month, you should be updating your website's patches. If you have add-ins, if you have e-commerce, make sure that it is kept up to date. And then make sure you're using encryption and security so that you have that protection for your customers, because you don't want a customer to come to your website and then be actually directed to a bad website.
I don't know if uh, that you are aware that in WordPress, there's an option on there to where you can automatically have all your plugins updated and the WordPress back end automatically without manually, doing it. Then they'll send you an email saying, this plugin has been automatically, you get a notification whenever that plugin or WordPress updates itself instead of doing it manually, which is what I do. I deal with content management system software, and they're now having that similar technology to where you have the ability to use a function that says, okay, I want y'all to automatically, update without me manually do it so I can move on to do something else. So that's a feature I think WordPress started doing the last couple of years. Um, you kind of mentioned something about your book.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout, so that was going to be one of my questions. Could you let people know about your book and where they can get your book from?
Yes. So my book, Relax, A Guide to True Cybersecurity, is available on Amazon, Noble Books, and you can also go to relaxguides.com, which will take you to, it'll redirect you to On Technology's website and where you can get the book. One of the things we're doing, and I want to make a shout out to Dawn Kendrick of The Good Stuff, because she came up with this idea. She said it's the Find Your Fanger. She is appreciative of all the help I've given her over the years to help her move her career forward. And what we're doing is we're taking the book to famous places and taking pictures of it at famous places and then tagging it with Find Your Fanger. So anyone that's out someplace famous, is just out at Washington, so I got a Washington Monument picture. it's just to help promote this idea of having fun, not just always being in a panic. So relax really is about relax. It's really about, the book is written with a lot of humor in it. It talks about a lot of my stories. I had one story, and this is where, when you talk about cybersecurity, it's not always about the hackers, it's about data loss. I worked for Truck Stops of America. I was just fresh out of college, and I was in charge of the warehouse systems. And I ended up making a mistake, and I wiped out all of the information on the warehouse, all of it. $5 million of inventory was just wiped out. I was 3 weeks in, and I started walking down to the network administrator. His name was also Ken. And I walked into his office and I said, Ken, I'm fired. He looked up at me, he smiled. He said, I bet you are. Then he said, now what did you do? I told him what I did. I said, I ended up wiping out everything. I was trying to fix a problem in the computer. I thought I had a way to do it, ended up wiping out everything. He said, that's okay. Things happen, mistakes happen. This is what we're going to do. We have a backup. I'm going to restore it. We're going to be back up in 20 minutes. That's when I learned the value of backups. So when you're out there and you talk about cybersecurity, it's not just losing data because of hackers. It could also be because of a computer failure or a loss of some type of information. And that's when I learned the value of backups. Backups can protect you from some of the hackers. Backups can protect you from your own mistakes. I've had many times where people have wiped out important information and we restore it. So that's one of the services OnTech offers, is email backup, cloud backup, on-site backup solutions from enterprise class companies, but priced for small business, because we all as humans make mistakes. I made that mistake. I wiped out an entire warehouse. Fortunately, they had backups, and I've been an evangelist for backups ever since. So your website, one of the things you're talking about, websites, one of the things people don't realize is a backup could be a great way to protect your website. If it does get hacked, you can restore it to a good state from before if you keep backups. Talk to your web providers, make sure they make backups of what you have, because otherwise you could be down for a long time trying to rebuild your website.
And most of the popular web hosting providers have a feature to where you can actually do it yourself, especially your content management system software like WordPress. I use a plugin called Duplicator to back up my site, because when you talk about content management systems, they kind of work a little different than your average web builder, because um, in a regular hosting account, you you have all of your individual pages. It's no database, per se. But for a content management system, you have a database that controls pretty much everything, all of your plugins, your themes, your pages, your images, all of your content is embedded in that specific database on the back end. And if you do not back that up and something happens to your WordPress website, you pretty much at a loss. So a plugin that I use is called Duplicator. So with Duplicator, it pretty much backs up everything, all of your pages, your content, your images, everything that you have stored on that site. It's, and even the database itself, it saves it into it builds an archive file that you can safely, download to whatever, and you're able to produce multiple copies, of that. So say that if your computer is under attack, you have a USB drive that you can, if you have a USB drive that you can save it to, then once you get your computer back to a workable state, you're able to go back in and restore your site through FTP, or file trans file transport protocol. That's what it's called. So just want to throw that out there. So that's one of the things that I do as a web designer. You know, I cannot stress that enough that you need some type of system to where you can back up your website, because that's the first place they're going to have. That's the first place that a hacker is going to go.
Yep.
You know, when they're trying to uh, take over your business or your nonprofit, your website is the first place, you know, that they go. So you definitely want to have some type of backup system in place. Unfortunately, WordPress has a lot of they have a lot of plugins that you're able to back up your site. I think Duplicator is like the best one, you know, there is, because it it not only compresses a large file, but you also have an installer file that you can use to install. That's the file that you need, is an installer file that accompany all of your backups. So when you get ready to restore your site, you use that installer file and it does the work for you. You just make sure that you have your database you know, intact, and it does the rest. So please, if you have a website, no matter how big it is, make sure that you have a web hosting provider that has a backup mechanism so that you're able to back up your website. So you've been doing this for 30 years. So has cyber security changed over the time that you first got started versus now?
It really has. And the change has come more recently for the fact that it's gotten known. So I worked all the way back. I was at BP, Truck Stops of America, Benvenue Laboratories. It was always in the back offices in the IT departments. We thought about, so when I was at BP, it was during the Gulf War. There's a lot of hostility to oil companies because of the Middle East. So we had a lot of activity to protect. I was in charge of payroll systems at that time. So we would protect things, but the average person had no idea about any of it because most people weren't on the internet. Most people weren't doing emails. Most people, so at that time, it was a small group of people that were concerned and the rest of the world was pleasantly oblivious. As we've gone and we started to do Facebook and everybody got on Facebook, and all of a sudden we were more directly engaged as the average person, cybersecurity went from those back offices where a couple of IT guys worried about data protection to every person has to be concerned about where their information is going to be used, how it's going to go. And so it's changed in the fact that every man and woman and child now has to think about it everywhere in the world. If you're in Japan, if you're in Russia, if you're in the United States, everybody can be hacked. You have hackers in Russia attacking American companies. You have hackers in America attacking Japanese companies and Japanese individuals. And so there isn't the ability to be oblivious to it like we used to be. People didn't think about hackers like they do now. People didn't think about how important their data was. You know, when Facebook started, we talk about this corporate responsibility. Facebook was giving out tons of information on every person, and every person gleefully gave it out. I tell people, think about this. Remember when Facebook used to have those tell me about yourself little quizzes, and they said, like, where did you go to high school? Where did you go to elementary school? What age did your dog come into your life? What's the name of your dog? Nobody ever thought about the fact those questions were the same security questions that banks were asking you. And so they would send these quizzes out and people would answer them because, you know, it's fun to do, not knowing that they're giving all the information that banks are using to protect yourself. And so now we know not to do that. So like when I put in a bank security code, I don't put what elementary school I went to. I put some unrelated information, but I keep that in a record somewhere because we've shared our lives unintentionally just because as human beings, we want to share. So I'm glad to tell you what elementary school I went to because my friend Al sent me this little request to do it. That's how they were hacking us. They were getting us to share on these social media because we thought we were sharing safely. And so as we came out into the 2000s, the world started with Y2K and we're going to have all these bad things happen because computer glitches. Then we started to realize it was active intent to hurt us. But it took us a long time to stop realizing all this stuff we share was going to be used against us later. So now social media, people are starting to become aware. If I share it on social media, it may never go away. Yes, it might even go away from a certain website, but somebody can grab that before it vanishes and store it forever. So you have to ask yourself, what am I putting out there? What do I want the world to see? I'm very careful. I try to be what I put onto social media because it will be there as long as I'm alive and long after I'm dead. And that's the problem we have is as human beings, we love to share. That's part of it. Telling stories, sharing what I've done in my life. It's exciting. It makes us interesting people, but it can also be used to manipulate us and get us to do things we don't want to do. So that's a change I've seen from the world where it was all in the background and nobody really thought about it. Now it's all exposed and people either deny it or they overfear it, but they know it and they can react to it.
So are there like any like psychological effects when it comes to cybersecurity? Because I'm quite sure it is, but I kind of want to hear your perspective on that.
And there is, it's called social engineering. That's the term that is used to describe it. So in the book, I talk about the boss sent it. Hackers will send an email and they'll have it like your boss will send you an email and the email will say, hey, you need to go buy a Amazon card for this customer or his daughter. I saw one that we had gotten that was caught by our spam filter, but I go through sometimes and see them. And it had said, Lucy would like you to buy an Amazon card for your daughter. I have 2 sons, so I knew it wasn't true. But what the hackers will do is they'll send out thousands of these emails, and sooner or later, 1 or 2 of them is all they need to hit. I was just talking with a group, and this is an old hack, but it's still working. They'll call up. Now we call it varshing, voice phishing, because we have to have a name for everything in cybersecurity. But they'll call you on your cell phone and they'll say, hey, your grandson has been arrested. We need to get $1,000. I'm his lawyer. Here's a bank account you can send it to so we can get him out of jail because he was speeding in Florida. And you don't want him to go into the Florida judicial system because he'll never get out. And so they use this fear. They take these panic feelings and they drive people to take actions. I remember after 2008, I got a call from the IRS and I knew this guy was fraudulent, but he was very aggressive and he kept trying to get me to send him $3,000 to pay off my tax liability. We didn't have a tax liability. I ended up keeping him on the phone for an hour and a half while I was doing a server upgrade. So I figured if he's talking to me, he's not talking to somebody that might actually send him money. And I started to do things to mess with him. Like I asked him for his badge. IRS agents don't have badges, but they're trying to get you to be afraid. So when I say relax, evaluate, and act, their job is to get you to react, either through excitement. Oh, I'm going to get $10,000. I'm going to get $1 million. I'm going to get $50 million if I give them 5,000. People just suddenly get so excited by the possibility they ignore the obvious dangers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very popular on social media. They do the exact same thing on Facebook, and we can't leave out stuff like the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
Mhm.
I hate them with a passion. I really do. But I found out how they are able to get all these winnings. So what they'll do is that they'll like pressure you to buy stuff. And that's how they make their money. They'll send you stuff in the mail, and then next thing you know, you'll get a surprise bill in the mail.
Mhm.
And if you try to send it back, they'll say they didn't get it. And you
Yeah,
still have to end up paying that money. I mean, it's ridiculous.
yeah, it is, and unfortunately, again, that's where I said, corporate governance and best behavior can be challenging when the goal is to always be making money. And making money is the American way, but there needs to be something else in there. There has to be making money socially well, I kind of say. And I think we lose that sometimes in the quest to always make a bigger margin, always make that next sale, always make that next money. And so, yeah, that's, Publisher Clearinghouse, I tell people, nothing is free. There's always a cost somewhere. So you have to look for it. Everybody that signed up for Facebook, Facebook didn't become one of the largest companies in the world by giving away things free. You probably heard this about Las Vegas. Vegas wasn't built on winners. It's the same thing with social media. If you're not paying for it, you're the product that somebody else is paying for. They're getting your information, they're selling you stuff, they're getting your money somehow if you're not giving it to Facebook directly. And that's exactly what happens in a lot of these things. And we forget, we're like, oh, free, I love free, I just want it all free. Nothing is free. Somebody has to pay for that, and you have to somehow pay for that somewhere down the journey.
I get like, I mean, have you ever got calls from a collection agency and either now most of them are not fraudulent, but they violated so many federal laws.
Mhm.
And I used to work for a collection agency, so I kind of know a little bit about odds and ends of the law. And I was like, and just like you, I've messed with them. I'm like, you're violating federal law because they don't think that people know this kind of stuff, but you actually got people out there that know this kind of stuff, and they'll let you know, hey, you violated the law, right?
Mhm.
And the call is recorded. And I'm hoping that when they call me, I hear that message, this call is being recorded.
Yeah.
Because that's my opportunity, to mess with them. And which I do. I know it's a scam. I know it's a scam, but sometimes you have to play along, just enough for them to fall in their own trap.
Yeah, I love it.
Um, so what are some of the signs that people need to look for when it comes to protecting themselves? What are some of the signs that they need to look for?
So I always start out with this statement. I'm sure your mother probably told you this. My mom told me this. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Um, uh, a dose of skepticism is always your best. If you get an email with somebody saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you $1 million if you give me 5,000 to open up a bank account," you're pretty well assured that's not going to happen. Um, if you got something that you weren't expecting, look, one of the things I do, so I'll get emails that look like they came from Facebook, and they'll be like, "I want to join your friends, I'm so and so." If you get that, don't click on the link in the email, go into Facebook and see if it's actually a friend request in Facebook. It's convenient to use your emails. The hackers know that. Don't do that. If you get an email from somebody, and this is something the millennials, I think, always have a problem with, use a phone as a phone, call people. That one company that got $125,000, if she would have called the company that said they were asking for their invoice and said, "Did you send an invoice?" that would have saved them $125,000. And unfortunately, that's not the only person that I have that story for. You've got $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. A phone call, I don't know about you, but I would make a 5-minute phone call for $50,000. Seems like it's a good use of my time. I think we need to get back to a point where you talk to people sometimes and don't trust that email is a secure way to converse with things. If you do converse with a company through email, make sure you're using a known good email. Don't use the email in the signature at the bottom of the scammer email because they're expecting that. So use your known good account to reach out to your customers. Don't over panic. One of the things I always remind people is panic is what they count on. Unfortunately, panic is also what my industry counts on to get you to act. Taking a moment and breathing, relaxing yourself. If you get an exciting email, ask, why did I get this? Was a company reaching out to me? If a company reaches out to you, ask them if they sent it to you. I'll give you an example. We're working with the city of Cleveland on that active shooter, and we sent out the emails to all of them saying there's this new active shooter training. We got 5 phone calls from people at Cleveland saying, is this a legitimate email? I thanked every single one of them for taking that extra step because that shows they understood that security step. We said, yes, we did send it. Thank you for doing that. That's how easy it is. I will gladly take a phone call from you if you're checking to make sure that I honestly sent something to you, because the one time it wasn't me could cost you your information.
Oh, and for your emails, this is what I do. In some of these emails, they have like a lot of grammatical errors in them.
Yes.
In some of these emails, like and like for example, sometimes they'll substitute a letter for a number. Like they're like an O, they'll substitute it for a 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another thing that they do is I found out is that say that I have this particular email address. In the email, I noticed that there's another email address that has nothing to do with me. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
But again, the main red flag is that you got an email with a lot of grammatical errors, and it's an email that you don't recognize.
Yeah.
Like it may have a bunch of unrecognizable letters and symbols and things of that nature. So that's definitely one thing to look out. Also, too, another thing to look out is that you'll have the same email in your email box, but it's coming from a different person. So you
Yeah.
may have the same email and it's coming from like 3 or 4 different people. And sometimes like back to back to back to back. I get those all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same wording. It may change, a little bit, but it's pretty much follow the same pattern. That's another red flag.
Yes.
I'm quite sure that you remember at the close of the 20th century into the 21st century, we had some major viruses out there. You had the Happy New Year virus, you had the Melissa virus,
Mm-hmm.
and you had the I Love You virus,
Oh gosh, I
and
remember.
all of those centered around, where someone, pretending to be someone that and you click on whatever attachment that was, or you click on whatever link that was, and they send the virus to not only to you, but everyone that is on your contact list. Remember that? That
Yeah.
was really devastating. So
Oh yeah.
that was really that's so much don't go on, right now. But I think right now, what we're dealing with is called phishing.
Yes.
To where it's kind of like a more sophisticated way of it's an evolution of those 3 viruses I just mentioned. It's an evolution. It's kind of like a step up, a level up from what we experienced back in the late 90s, to where they're pretend to be a company that you're familiar with or you have dealt with in the past, and supposedly they're supposed to send you a link, but it's not the official link of that, particular company. It's a fraudulent website, but it looks exactly like the original, website. Also, too, on social media, on Facebook particularly, hackers will take, all of your content, your pictures and everything, and create an exact clone of your website. I mean, of your profile rather.
Yep.
But this is how you can catch them. This is how, because this has happened to me. Someone had cloned my Facebook page, my profile, right? But the way they was talking didn't sound like me. So
Mhm.
I got an email saying, did you did you send me a request for money? I said, no, I don't do that. And people know how I talk, they know how I interact, they know how I relate to people. So it was like, this is not you.
Mhm.
I'm going to report it. So if you know someone very well, and then they comment, to you with some weird message, that's a red flag.
Yes.
Another thing to keep in mind is that if say that you're commenting on something and then someone come behind you and say, "Oh, I like how you look," or "I like your comments." Would you be my friend? Because I can't seem to send your friend request. Walk away, people.
Yep.
That is clearly a scam.
I agree.
They do that on Facebook, they do that on Twitter, they do that on Instagram. If you find yourselves in that situation, report it, report it to the company and block them. Did I leave anything out?
No, you and one of the things we offer, you're asking about some of the things we offer. We offer an email security backup protection and training package that really helps. We use it ourselves and it helps to remove a lot of that because there is so much that happens. So that's one place where, and the nice thing is the package we use also will scan all of the links that are in the emails to make sure they're going to the right location. So that's one of those features when you talk about products we offer that we've really been proud of because there is so much you get in email. And one of the problems, I'm sure you know this, we're all so busy, we don't take the time to read. Like you said, I had an email from Microsoft. It said, "We here, Microsoft, are to protect you." Clearly, nobody at Microsoft is ever going to let that go out to the world. But we don't read. We see Microsoft, we see a bunch of words, we think it must be Microsoft. This kind of helps protect to remove some of those things to make it easier on us because we're all overwhelmed. It is amazing between social media, email, our jobs, our families. There's no time left to just breathe and look at things. You can't take the time to read every email you get. And so the hackers count on that. You talked about, you see a comment, "I want to be your friend." If you don't know people, you probably don't want to friend them. Just because somebody says want to be a friend, like I told you, that one person that friended me on Facebook, I did it on purpose. I knew it was a scam. I don't have beautiful women throwing themselves at me every day. So I didn't expect a random beautiful woman to just decide she wants to spend time with me. Think a little bit. Don't just welcome every person in. You might find that they're going to try and do bad things to you. Like you said, take a few minutes. Don't let everybody in the door.
Oh, so I don't think the mainstream media is not really talking about this as much. I know there's been news reports of companies getting hacked and breached and all of that, but there's never been an actual conversation about why this is happening. They don't talk about cybersecurity. But you always see a commercial, for services like LifeLock,
Mhm.
or Norton, 365. You always, see that. Um, they're great companies. Please take advantage of them, if you can. That's a, extra layer of protection. I am not knocking them, but I think that as a media outlet, now this is what I believe, that if you're saying that media, they always say that we're in the business of entertaining people, but are we definitely in the business of informing people? That's the question, that's not being, discussed. I remember, as a kid, that a long time ago there used to be this investigative program called Close Up.
Mhm.
Now, they was really good in investigating, reporting. They got a lot of backlash. They ruffled a few feathers, but they really impacted policy, in this country. I
Mhm.
really wish that we had a show like that, today, that they're talking about things, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. And another thing I want to point out is that in recent years, that some of the stuff that we've been talking about here, they're targeting senior citizens.
Yes. Yes. And one of the things that I'm looking for, and if there's somebody out there that has an opportunity, I want to talk and present anywhere I can, because what you're saying is true. We have to have a different dialogue. We have to make it top of mind, but not overwhelm. So, I'm looking for venues to get out and talk to people and share this message. Cybersecurity is important. It's not everything, it's a part of something. It's a part of what we need to be doing every day, and how to make it part of our lives without overwhelming our lives.
Right.
Info@ontechpartners.com is a website or an email you can send to ask for me to present at different venues, at different opportunities. Because you're right, the mainstream media does one of two things. They either do the massive, horrific breaches, which makes all little people feel they can't do anything about it. If BP, if was it Colonial, if they can't protect themselves, I'm helpless. That's the story that the media points out there. The problem is you're not helpless. You were giving some great examples on how to be a little more secure on social media. If you don't have two-factor authentication on your social media, do that today. It's very easy. We can help people do it, but you can go on to a Google search and find how to do it. Everybody should have two-factor authentication on all of their social media. You need that to stay safe. Nobody talks about that. Nobody says to go do that. It's a simple thing. It's free, but they don't do it. LifeLock's a good product. You're right. You should freeze your credit until you're ready to get new credit. Your credit should be frozen. People don't talk about doing that until after the breaches, after there's a problem. And it's simple things every person can do. We have on all of our credit cards a $5 transaction notification. So if there's a transaction over $5, we get notified. And we've had transactions because we do buy online and people hack online. We've never
I,
lost.
I get like text messages. I get text messages saying that did you order this particular product? Because
Yeah.
I get, emails and text messages like from famous companies, like, big companies like Walmart or
Mhm.
McAfee, saying that that I ordered something, and I know I didn't order anything,
Yeah.
and they want you to click on this link saying, confirm your order.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but I have not ordered, I have not ordered anything.
Yes.
So if you didn't go on this particular website and order anything, then you automatically know it's a scam. Don't click on those links,
Yeah.
because they will give you more trouble than you can handle. And again, you have to be responsive and not reactive.
Yeah.
Psychologically, and if I can go into a little bit of psychology, for a little bit here, that that we know that when it comes to pain and pleasure, we're always seeking that, that pleasure. When it comes to pain, we want to dump it as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Sometimes without even, noticing that what we're trying to do would make things worse. Like for example, if you got a scammer that's coming on and saying, I'm going to help you build your website, or I'm offering this free training, on a particular thing, so you can make money, or I'm gonna, there's a really neat job offer that's paying really good money, something like that.
Yep.
Now we know that when we look at our lives, it's not all that, rosy. We get into financial trouble. We looking for a better job. We're desperate. So we're going to, cave into the pressure instead of looking at some of the warning signs I just, gave,
Yep.
and so, we're in a painful situation. So we figured that if we go along, with this, that we would turn, our situation around, particularly our financial situation, and then we end up being in worse shape than where we were before. And it really breaks my heart that when you tell people these things, they shut you down.
Yep.
And then they come crying to you 15 minutes later, oh, I've been hacked.
Well, ironically, the ones that come crying to you 15 minutes later are the better of the two. It's the people that don't tell you they've been hacked. That's even worse because they're too embarrassed. Because we need to know, and that's one of the things when I do my presentations, one of the reasons why I tell people my hack stories where I made mistakes, because it lets people feel more comfortable about sharing their stories. That woman that I told you about that got her Instagram hacked, she came up after and was talking to me and said, it was so good to hear you got hacked because I didn't feel so bad. And that's one of the things I think I want to make sure that all of your listeners, all your viewers see is we have to start talking from a position. I was in Washington a few months ago now, 2 months ago for a security conference. And one of the vendors stood up and said, you can't patch stupid. And I sat there and thought, if I told somebody you're stupid, why would they ever tell me they got hacked again? Why would they ever share that story if they're going to be made to feel bad? So I'm approaching this very differently. You're going to love this story because it's one of my favorites. I literally know a rocket scientist. And when I do my presentations, I ask, how many people think a rocket scientist is really intelligent? This guy, he's an aerospace engineer. He's in the Air Force. When he was in college, he got his wallet stolen. The very next day, the police called and said, hi, we found your wallet. We just need your PIN to confirm it's yours. This rocket
No,
scientist.
they would never do that. They will ask you, what color is your wallet?
Exactly. But what do you think this rocket scientist did when he got that call from the police?
He gave him his pen.
He gave him the PIN and they stole $2,000 out of his bank account. So if a rocket scientist who is that smart can be taken, any of us can be taken. Now this was 20 years ago. We hadn't started the conversation, but mistakes do happen and we have to stop punishing people for being people. We have to stop punishing people for trying to be good people and being excited about, like you said, you get that excitement, you get that fear. If you're a grandparent and somebody calls and says your grandchild is in prison and they're going to go into the legal system in Florida, you're going to pay any money to save your grandchild. They count on good people to do things and react before they think. And so you're right.
Do you have some type of curriculum that you follow?
You mean when we
Is,
do
is it
our,
yeah, is it curriculum based?
when I do my presentations and my training, we build, so we're working with several cities right now to build different trainings. So our active shooter uses the federal government training standard. We work off of, it depends on what you're trying to learn. So if you're dealing with email phishing, we have a program. If you're doing with ransomware backups, So we build our packages based on what you want your team to learn. And one of the things we do, we love it. It's one of our employees makes it. It's called chocolate antivirus. So it looks like it's chocolate in the form of a little lock that we bring to every one of our presentations to help, again, make it fun. So we do have curriculum we use. I'm actually working with a couple of other industry leaders on creating tabletop exercises. We're hoping to be rolling those out in December to help people make this more engaging, more fun, more relaxed, so that you can learn how to protect yourself better as you move forward.
How can how can we get people to start, talking about these things?
The first thing we have to do is we have to have the experts be willing to talk about their stories. I can't count the number of times I talk to cybersecurity experts and they're like, well, I've never been hacked. I don't know about you, but I want people that have experienced what I've experienced. I want people that understand what I'm going through. If somebody feels you're perfect, they're not going to trust you at the same level. Most companies have been hacked. And the truth is, if you don't think you've been hacked, it probably means the hackers are still doing what they're doing. As an industry, as a cybersecurity industry, we have to tell our stories. I tell my story about my wife boss who got hacked. I tell my story about what I've done, the things I wiped out. One time I ended up wiping out the entire tax code for a major corporation when I was just starting out. We have to be willing to share the bad stories so people understand that it's okay and you can recover. And it's okay that something bad happened. You have to share your story so others can learn. There's a wonderful woman, Catherine Bosley, who came out. She ended up getting her personal information shared on the internet, and it was devastating to her career. And at first she wasn't sharing it. Now she goes out and tells everybody. She did a wet t-shirt contest in Florida, and somebody took the pictures and shared them out to the internet. Ruined her career, caused her a lot of harm. She now is an advocate to get other people to come up and share their stories, because we got to come out. We can't punish people for making mistakes. We can't punish people for thinking that they're trying to do good things, and we do. And my industry is terrible at it. Nobody should ever say you can't patch stupid. People aren't stupid. They're just ignorant of the proper things to do. Don't make them feel bad after the fact. Don't tell them, how could you be so stupid? How could you take such a stupid action? They didn't know what they were doing. We all have made mistakes. We all wanted that extra $5 gift card. Why would anybody hack me for $5? It's a simple mistake. The more we talk about it, the more we can learn. The thing that I found, I've done about 10 of these presentations. In the beginning, nobody wants to talk about their stories, but as soon as one person shares, all of a sudden everybody starts sharing. Oh, I had this one person call me and they got me to give my bank account. Oh, I clicked on this one link. And then all of a sudden it's almost cathartic. All the group starts to share, and then everybody realizes they're not foolish, they're not stupid, they're not unique. We all experience it, and then we can be better, and then we can learn. This person, oh, I got a call. This is what they said. So every time you and I share openly, every time we share to somebody else, we make it easier for them to share their story, and their story helps two other people not get hacked the same way.
Now, how can somebody like me, educate people on some of the things that you have mentioned?
Well, and you're doing a great job, because you talk about it from the social media and the website approach. You talked about duplicate so that you have your WordPress protected. I guarantee there are thousands of WordPress sites that people aren't properly protecting. They aren't turning on automatic updates. You have helped all those people right there. When you go out to social events, talk about what's happened to you. If you go out to Thanksgiving dinner, share at dinner. I share with everybody what's happened and how they can help protect themselves. It starts with family. On Technology Partners is a family first company. We are very much about making sure that we care about family. Share with your family. Don't be afraid to tell the bad stories. Let people know so that they know not to have it happen to them. It's that same thing. Knowledge is power. If we keep it hoarded up because we're embarrassed, the next person won't know and they're going to fall into the same trap. And that's what you don't want to have happen. If you got hacked, share your story. Be brave. We should not punish you for doing it. The more we share, the less the hackers have a way to get to you because you're going to hear about it. If nobody tells me what to do, I don't know how to do it.
Is there like a formal curriculum that people can have access to in order to like educate people?
There is. I can get that. I don't have it handy to give you. We don't have that published for OnTech. We do have. So one of the things we offer for OnTech, if anybody wants it, again, it's info@ontechpartners.com. We have a what to do if you've been hacked. It's 5 steps. We have 20 different articles that we give out. We have the NIST cyber framework. So this is a really good framework if you're looking for how do I start to go to cybersecurity. We do a strategic security plan if you're trying to be working with the federal government. And this is a 110-step process to help make sure that you're secure. So we have a wide range of materials that we can provide to people to help them move towards better cybersecurity. We have how to make a secure password. We have how to do encryption. So we have a lot of documents that we give out freely to anybody that asks.
Okay, we're going to get ready to wrap up here. This has been really informative. Best wishes on your business and what you do. I know you've been doing this for a very long time, and so you're saving a lot of lives, businesses, organizations. Really appreciate all the work that you've been doing, and continue to do what you do. So the final question is that if someone wanted to purchase your book or they want to know more about your company and the services, how can they reach you?
So they can come to our website on technologypartners.com. They can reach out to me at info@ontechpartners.com. We are at Amazon. So if you just go to Amazon and type in Relax, A Guide to True Cybersecurity, you can purchase the book there. And if you reach out to us, I am looking to do as many presentations. So if you're a social group, we will work with you. If you're a company and you'd like me to come and talk to your team, we do that. We work with government. So yeah, we try to be as out there. You can join me on Facebook. Or not Facebook, LinkedIn. It's Ken Fanger. I'm always looking to connect with more people. Hopefully not scammers. So yeah, those are the best ways. Info@ontechpartners, ontechnologypartners.com. And then Amazon or Noble Books were available, plus other major venues.
Do you do like in-person presentations only? Do you do like webinars?
I do webinars. In fact, we have a webinar coming up on the 6th through Cuyahoga Community College. So if you go to ontechnologypartners.com, you can register. I'll be presenting about Relax, A Guide to True Cybersecurity, and how to use Relax, Evaluate, and Act to protect your company. I also do in-person presentations. I like in-person a lot because I make the audience be a part of the conversation. That's how I found that woman that was having that breach. So I'm willing to travel. I'm traveling across the country over the next 2 months doing different presentations. I do virtual. I do presentations on international cybersecurity. I do presentation on small business cybersecurity. I love small business because I think those are the people that get ignored the most. So those are the ones I love to help.
Any last words to the audience? Any words of encouragement?
Yes, I think it's important to realize even though cybersecurity is part of our lives, it's not everything. Not to let this overwhelm you. Don't let my industry over fear you. Don't look at, because again, you'll hear these breaches in the news and you'll feel helpless. You are not helpless. And there are simple things to do to make you a little more secure, a little bit safer. It's no different than protecting your house. You can take these steps and they're very easy to do. Reach out to us. We have a list of 20 different things we'll send you, all the way from NIST framework to how to react when you get hacked, to how to back up your information, to just what do all these acronyms mean? You don't have to feel alone anymore. You can be part of the group that ends up being safer every day.
Well, Ken, you have been very informative. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come be a part of this small podcast. And where we tend to bring people on um, news, information. We want to empower people. So the information that we give, uh, encourage people and sometimes we have to take ownership of some of the things that we do. And sometimes the information that, we present, we hope that you will be able to do that as well. I do believe that we have some sort of responsibility, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. So thank you so much, and we're going to get out of here. We got another great guest that will be on next week. If it's news that you want an expert that deals with a topic in the news, we definitely would like for you to be on Talk Show Presents because again, it's an outlet to where we share information that's being ripped from the headlines, and we go beyond what's being reported on the news because a lot of times they just scratch the surface. But here on Talk Show Presents, we kind of like really break the news down and we talk about topics that the media they just brush on, but they really don't break it down. So that's what we do here, and we have experts like Ken. He really broke it down for us. So that's kind of an example of what we do. So again, next week we will have another great guest and another news topic or topic depending on what that is. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week on Talk Show Present.